What's the point of a book? You might think to communicate information. That presupposes that readers are trying to figure out what the author is saying. But you might also think that a book is valuable because it provokes a lot of interpretations, even if the writer wasn't aware of them. So what would the best kind of book look like? How would it balance these two factors? St. Augustine thought about these questions with regard to the Christian scriptures, a collection of books written by many writers. But he believed that God inspired these writers, so that God was also the author of the whole thing. Since God is the author, everything asserted in Scripture must be true, because God can't lie. St. Augustine uses the fact that Scripture is true to derive a whole series of interpretive principles. For instance, within the text, he takes out this statement of Jesus, that all Scripture must build up love of God and neighbor. And he says that every valid interpretation has to do the same. But he also uses outside knowledge from philosophy or science to figure out what a given passage could or could not be saying. Augustine believed that since God knows all things, he actually anticipated all of the valid interpretations that readers would find in Scripture and intended them when he inspired the text. That's why, if you look at this bottom quote, he says that a verse of Scripture is like a small spring that provides water to many rivers. A few words gush out many truths, and each interpreter can pull out the one he's capable of. Now, most scholars stop there and say that's all that Augustine requires of readers. But if you look in this bold text on the right, you can see that he only makes that allowance as long as the reader is trying to understand what the writer understood. Why does he do that? Because he thinks that God didn't just inspire the words of these writers. He also revealed the highest truths to them. Truths about God, about man made in the image of God, and about Jesus, the man who is God. Now, Augustine thinks that at the highest level, all of these truths are one, a unity. But if you look at that bottom quote again, you can see there's this language of one splitting into many. And that's a problematic idea in the Confessions where it's from, because it's the story of how Augustine scattered himself in vices and how he had to gather himself in order to return to God. So the fact that Scripture's language splits into many meanings is a problem. But from what I've said, we can also see Augustine's solution, which shows why Scripture is the best book. It's not just that Scripture's words provoke many interpretations. It's that the writer's meaning implies and contains all the truths that readers can find. So readers have to gather these truths to push forward, always onward, to that meaning that the writer intended, which is the highest truth above language in God himself. Thank you.